Chapter 15, Part 2. Jimbo watched every move I made, but he made no effort to jump on me. He seemed to realize that I was trying to help his little friends. 5 times I reached under the bank and pulled out a little monkey. They were in worse shape than I had thought. They sat where I put them down, all humped up, crying and shivering. Talking to myself, I said, I think that's about all I can carry at one time. Gathering the little monkeys in my arms, I started in a dog trot down the washout to a patch of sunshine I had noticed. Rowdy and Jimbo came with me. About 30 minutes later, I had all of them drying out in the sun. I'd kept counting as I made each trip with an armload of monkeys. I could hardly believe it. There were 28 of the little fellas and Jimbo, 29 in all. In no time at all, the warm rays of the sun had the monkeys pretty well dried out. I picked up one little fella and rubbed his fur with my hand. He was as dry as Grandma's yarn. The monkeys made no effort to bite either Rowdy or me. Couldn't understand it. In fact, they seemed to be happy that we were there. I could pick one up and pet it any time I wanted, and it wouldn't bite me. The storm and the terrible night must have had something to do with it. I was pretty sure if I could get Jimbo to go with me, I'd have no trouble with the little monkeys. They would follow him, and that was all that I wanted. I decided I'd give it a try. Taking Jimbo's paw in my hand, I said, Come on, Jimbo, let's go to the house. We have a good corn crib that's warm and dry. Think you and your little friends will like it. It'll sure beat those cold, wet bottoms. You'll have plenty to eat, too. I promise you that. Jimbo must have understood me, or he had already made up his mind to come along willingly. He made no trouble at all. We climbed out of the washout and started down a game trail. I was afraid to look back to see if the little monkeys were following. If they didn't follow us, there was nothing I could do about it just then. Absolutely nothing. We hadn't gone far when a little monkey came zipping by us. With his skinny tail high in the air, he took off down the game trail as fast as he could run. First thing I knew, the little monkeys were all around us, in the underbrush on both sides of the trail, swinging through the trees and hopping along the trail. They were following us. I couldn't help grinning to myself. Boy, I said in a low voice, if my luck will just hold out, I'll have my pony and gun. I could almost feel them in my hands. I was within 100 yards of the house when Daisy came out on the porch. At first, she just stood there leaning on that old crutch of hers. I saw her close her eyes, shake her head, and then very slowly open her eyes again. She started yelling, Mama, come and look. Hurry, Mama, you won't believe it. Jay Berry's coming home with 1,000 monkeys. I'd never seen 29 monkeys grow into 1,000 so fast. Mama came flying out of the house. She had a tea kettle in her hand. By the way, you guys notice how Mama comes flying out of the house and she has a tea kettle. She must have dropped something. I always talk about that. I saw her mouth open and I thought she was going to say something, but she must have lost her voice because I didn't hear her say a thing. I really couldn't blame Mama for being so surprised at what she was seeing. It's not every day that a boy comes home holding hands with a chimpanzee and with 28 little monkeys hopping around all over the place. Things like that just don't happen every day. Don't just stand there, I yelled. Somebody, go and open the corn crib door for me. Mom and Daisy started running at the same time. Mama still had the tea kettle in her hand. I had never seen my little sister run so fast. That old crutch of hers didn't seem to touch the ground at all. I saw Papa come to the door of the blacksmith shop. He must have been sharpening something because he had a file in his hand. For a second or two, he just stood there looking at me and all those monkeys. Then he dropped the file and came toward us in a long lope. Mom and Daisy were standing off to one side of the corn crib when I came walking up. I couldn't help but smile at the look on their faces. I could see that Mama wasn't looking at me. She had her eyes glued on Jimbo. She was still holding her tea kettle in her hand. Jay Berry, she said in a frightened voice, that thing's not a monkey. It looks like a young gorilla. You be careful. Oh, Mama, I said as I reached down and picked Jimbo up in my arms. He's not a gorilla. He's a monkey, and he's as tame as old Rowdy is. Can't you see that he's not going to hurt anything? No, I can't see, Mama said in a loud voice. Have you forgotten the day you and Rowdy came in, bitten all over? That wasn't their fault, Mama. I said, that was our fault, mine and Rowdy's. They thought we were going to hurt them. That's why they bit us. Jay Berry, Mama said in a firm voice, I don't care what you say. You put that monkey or whatever it is in the corn crib this minute. Lock the door and keep it locked. Mama, I said as I started toward her with Jimbo still in my arms, why don't you pet him a little? Then you'll see how friendly he is and you won't be scared of him. He won't hurt you. I had never seen my mother move backwards so fast. Her face turned as white as a hen's egg. Jay Berry Lee, Mama yelled, you get that thing away from me. I don't want it close to me. If you don't, you're going to get the whipping of your life, and I mean it. From the tone of her voice and the look in her eyes, I knew what she meant. I knew she meant what she said. Mama, I said, I don't see why you're so scared of Jimbo. He's not going to hurt you. Just then, Daisy came over to me and said, Jay Berry, do you think Jimbo would let me pet him? Sure, I said, "Do you want to hold him?" Daisy nodded her head and held out her arms. I passed Jimbo over to her. He wrapped his long arms around her neck and whimpered as if his feelings had been hurt. Turning her head to look at Mama, Daisy said, "Oh, Mama, he's such a friendly little thing." Seeing Daisy with Jimbo in her arms did Mama more good than anything. She lost a lot of her scare, but not quite all of it. She said, "It does look like he's friendly. I didn't know monkeys got that big." Papa came over. "How'd you catch them?" he asked. "It couldn't have been very hard. You weren't down on the bottoms long." "I can't understand it, Papa," I said. "I didn't have any trouble at all. I think they wanted to be caught. They sure acted like they did." Your chapter 15, part 2 question. Let me just walk by my window this time. It's Gianna and Mrs. Johnson. So, chapter 15, part 2, Gianna and Mrs. Johnson. I told Papa everything that had happened from the time Rowdy and I entered the bottoms until I found the monkeys under the bank. Papa said, "I think that storm had more to do with your catching them than anything else. These monkeys are tame. They've lived in cages all their lives. They never seen a storm like that, and it probably scared them half to death. It's no wonder they wanted to be caught." "It's a good thing that Jimbo knew where that hole was," I said. "I don't think they could have made it through that storm if they'd stayed in the trees. They almost didn't make it anyhow." I turned around to see what the little monkeys were doing. I couldn't see one anywhere. I got scared. I just knew they had gone back to the river bottoms. "Where'd the little monkeys go?" I shouted. Papa laughed and said, "They all hopped up in the corn crib." I hurried to the door of the corn crib and looked in. Little monkeys were sitting all over the place. Each one was holding a big ear of corn. They were tearing at the shucks with their needle sharp teeth. Daisy brought Jimbo over and set him down in the crib. Right away, he got an ear of corn and joined his little friends. By this time, Mama had gotten over most of her scare. She came over to the corn crib and looked in at the monkeys. "Why, the poor things are starving to death," she said, all concerned. "I'll go and heat a pan of milk for them. I bet they like that." All excited, Daisy said, "I'll go and get them some apples." Right then, I saw a good chance to get back at my little sister. "Daisy," I said, trying to act very serious, "if you don't stop feeding our apples to those monkeys, we're not going to have any apples left." Daisy smiled and said, "Ah, Jay Barry, you're just trying to be cute now." "That's what you told me," I said. "Remember?" Papa said, "I think I'll get a bale of straw and make them a bed to sleep in. After a night like they had out in that storm, I'll bet they can use some sleep." Just as Papa turned to be on his way, he stopped and looked at Mama. "There's something I'd like to know," he said. "What's that?" Mama asked. Papa smiled and said, "What are you going to do with that tea kettle?" Mama looked at the tea kettle, and I could see the surprise spread all over her face. From the way she was staring at it, you'd have thought she'd never seen it before. Then she laughed and said, "Oh, for heaven's sake, what am I doing with this thing?" All of us had a good laugh. Daisy squealed, "Oh, look at Rowdy." Rowdy had hopped up in the crib and had sat down right in the middle of all the monkeys. His old tail was really making a racket as it swished back and forth in the corn shucks. "Rowdy," I said, "I'm going to the store and tell Grandpa about catching the monkeys. If you're going with me, you'd better come out of there." For once, Mama didn't say one word to stop me. All she said was, "Jay Barry, you hurry back because I don't want you out late." End of chapter 15.